is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412 over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Also, go subscribe over to the YouTube. We're trying to grow that up as much as we can. Leave a like on the videos. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think of the videos. Let us know if you have any questions about the Steelers or any other Pittsburgh sports team, and we'll answer them right here on the show. I'm going to be honest. It was tough to come up with an idea for this episode.
I know what you're talking about. This was planned.
Walk in the park. Easy idea. There's just not a lot to talk about with the Steelers that's not either regurgitated information that we've already talked about or something that's going to be absolutely pointless. This might dive towards the absolutely pointless side, but it's something fun that Smitty and I can do while still actually talking about the Steelers. So we're actually going to have a draft of some Steelers players, fantasy style draft. It's going to be a snake, and we flipped a coin beforehand. Smitty gets the first nod. He gets the first pick, and we're going to be drafting quarterback, 2 wide receivers, a running back, a tight end, offensive tackle, a interior lineman, so we can draft a guard or a center, the defensive, 1 defensive lineman, 1 edge rusher, 1 linebacker, 1 cornerback, 1 safety, and then 1 special teams player, not necessarily a kicker or punter.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I like this. I'm excited about this. Tyler mentioned I do have the first pick. This is also not the order necessarily that we have to go in. And I also want to preface, this is if we were building a team, not just necessarily for 1 year. So like you're putting together a football team that you hope is the team going forward. I have the first pick. I don't think there has to be much debate here again, because we don't have to go in any order necessarily. I can take whatever player, whatever position. I'm going TJ Watt as my first overall pick, as I think it should be.
It's hard to argue with that one. I think that it's obviously a good position to have as an edge rusher. What do they always say? That the 3 most important positions are the quarterback itself, the person protecting the quarterback, and the person that's attacking the quarterback. TJ Watt, one of the best.
Well, I'll say with the way they're getting paid, it seems like wide receivers kind of in that conversation now too. I think it's honestly
that's true.
With I think it honestly, Derek Bell has put this take out there, so I'm not like necessarily saying that I'm the only one that's had this. But I wonder how much of that has to do, honestly, with the fact that like quarterback play probably as bad as it's been, like lead wide. We obviously still have some unicorns in Mahomes, Josh Allen, those types. But overall, the quarterback play has dipped in the league compared to what we were used to when we had like the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers, obviously a different version of Aaron Rodgers back then, though. And I wonder how much of that is due to that, like the receivers having to pick up for where the quarterback play is lacking. So I wonder if that's kind of what else elevated that position, because it's interesting because it's also the position that we've seen be the most like pro ready coming into the league out of the draft. So like, but they're still getting paid, which is interesting. So I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah, I just feel bad for running backs. As much as I like to harp on running backs, I feel bad. Like when you're a running back and you see like the type of contracts that get handed out to these receivers, like recently the Justin Jefferson contract that got handed out. Like if you're just one of these running backs that's trying to get a sniff of that contract, like a percentage of that contract, you got to feel bad for those players in that position. It's hard not to, but that's a good pick. Okay, I'm up. I get the next 2 picks, and I'm going to flip to the offensive side of the ball for my first pick, and I'm actually going to go with my offensive tackle. You pick the player that's attacking the quarterback. I'm going to pick the player that's protecting the quarterback, and I'm going to pick Broderick Jones. I think that there's not necessarily a bad choice between Broderick Jones or Troy Fautanu. It's just tougher with Troy Fautanu too, because he has not played a snap at the NFL level yet. And we've seen Broderick Jones play in the NFL at least. He's going to be making the flip over to the left side of the line, so he's going to be the left tackle, one of the most important positions to a team. So I'm going to shore up my left side of the offensive line, pick Broderick Jones, and then I'm actually going to flip back to the other side of the ball for my next pick, and I'm going to take a cornerback. I'm going to take Joey Porter Jr., a
Dang.
young stud on the outside, and he's someone that you're going to build that secondary around. You want him to be one of these shutdown corners in the NFL. At least that's the expectation that we have talked about going into this season. I think that the sky is the limit for a guy like Joey Porter Jr., and I think the Steelers are going to be relying on him heavily, especially when you look at some of the quarterbacks that they have right now. They're going to be relying on him to at least shut down half of the field or have that mentality with that. So I think that as far as like the future goes in the secondary, Joey Porter Jr. is the future of the Steelers.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick. But I like it, obviously. I think that you look at what's behind him at corner, and I don't know where else you could have gone there. So my corner will definitely be an interesting pick when we get there, but I'm not going to use that here. Kind of a chess move, though, based off you going Broderick. I am going to take Troy Fautanu as my offensive tackle, just because I feel like I got to get him now. And I will go with George Pickens sticking on the offensive side.
I like those picks.
Basically, George Pickens is I'm looking at him just like Joey. Like, if I didn't get George as my wide receiver, don't like the way it would have looked.
Yeah, wide receiver is a tough one now because since you took that, I feel forced that I need to take a wide receiver because we do have two of them. They're the only position that we have multiple of. So I feel like I'm going to take a wide receiver with one of my next two picks. And I feel like just because we are building for the future in this franchise, and I'm going to be picking another rookie, and it's going to be Roman Wilson, because while the reports out of OTAs and minicamp were that he was the worst wide receiver on the team that was there, that was what Alan, on your co-host for Steelers Afternoon Drive, that's what he said he would have said for Joey Porter Jr. last year with OTAs and minicamp. Like, that's rookies. There's going to be an adjustment period, but these guys are pros. The adjustment period should not be long. And I think that Roman Wilson has somewhat of the pedigree, at least, to make him a good pick for my first wide receiver, especially with the state of the Steelers wide receiver room. There's just not a lot to choose from, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to pivot to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm trying to decide, do I value future or do I value peak right now? Because I think I value peak right now, and I'm going to take Keanu Benton. Or not peak right now. I'm valuing future.
I think it's both.
Excuse me.
I think it's both, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm taking Keanu Benton. There's two E's in Keanu. Because he is the future of that defensive line. He is the only guy that we have right now that you look at and say he is for sure a piece for the future. Right now, you have Larry Ogunjobi, Cameron Hayward, uncertainty along that defensive front. He's the one that could be, sky's the limit for Keanu Benton. He's so good. He had a great rookie season, and I expect him to even be better in year two.
I like the pick a lot. Based off the fact that I just kind of have resigned to the fact that my corner is not going to be that great. I want the other players at the second and third levels to be my strength. My next two picks are both going to be there. I'm going to go Patrick Queen and Minkah Fitzpatrick back to back.
Oh, man, that's good. That's really good. I was debating on taking Patrick Queen, and I'm not saying I regret that I didn't, but that's clearly the best linebacker really good that you could have gotten. Yeah, that's clearly the best linebacker that we could have gotten in this. Those are two really good picks. So now I feel like because there's two of them, I feel like I have to pivot back to wide receiver, because a lot of these we are not going to get more than one of. So I'm going to be taking, man, I don't love this. I don't love this at all. And I really wish the Steelers would have traded for a wide receiver or signed somebody else, because this draft would have been a lot easier right now. But based off those available and based off of what's been said about him in camp, I feel like I have to take Calvin Austin III here. The talk out of camp or not camp, excuse me. Talk out of OTAs is that he had a really good OTA session. I do think that there is spot for Calvin Austin the third in this offense. I just think they have to figure out what it was. Matt Canada was not able to figure out what it was. I think that they have a better shot in Arthur Smith's offense to be able to figure it out. And my next pick is going to break your heart. I'm taking your boy. I'm going to take Pat Freiermuth at tight end because I'm valuing pass catching. I'm valuing offensive production with my tight end, and I'm going to take your boy, Pat.
Yeah, football camp. Well, actually, by the time people are watching this, it's today. By the time people are watching or listening to this, and then I'll be with him for
Shout out to Seamus Lambert, by the way.
Shout out to Seamus Lambert, and then so I'll be with Seamus as well, and then we're going to see him play in the celebrity softball game, Cam's celebrity softball game. So yeah, I'm very excited. But with that being said, man, this changes things. I kind of had him penciled in as my next pick. You know what? I'm going to start. I'll take Justin Fields as my quarterback. Okay. I want the younger player there. I'll lock him in. And you know what? I'll do the same at running back. I'm taking Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields makes total sense in this. I think that out of the two, if you're building or if you're franchise around one of them, Justin Fields is the one you want to build your franchise around of just because of the age. I mean, like we said, this is not a fantasy draft per se, but if this were a fantasy draft, Justin Fields is the obvious pick because of the legs. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the best fantasy quarterbacks in like the league for the past couple of years, and he's not even a good quarterback. So what does that tell you about fantasy? But Jaylen Warren, honestly, that does hurt because of the whole building your franchise around this draft sort of thing. Najee Harris is on a 1-year contract as of this point, so that kind of hurts. So, but I feel like because you took those players, I kind of know what the hand that I'm dealt at those positions. So now I feel like I need to pivot to look at the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, edge rusher, I feel like I got to take Alex Highsmith. That's one that I feel like is an obvious number 2 to TJ. But as far as what's on the roster right now, like there's a lot of hope for Nick Herbig to be good, but I don't think it's enough right now for me to say I want to like build my franchise around that player. But Alex Highsmith has shown enough, even as a number 2, that if he was on a different team and he wasn't on the opposite side of TJ Watt, you would still feel really good about having Alex Highsmith there. So then, man, when I look at the other positions right now, safety just sucks to have to pick from. If I'm being completely honest, like not that it sucks, but like you have Minka and I'm just getting whoever. So I feel like I gotta, since you already have the position and there's one position that neither of us have.
Yeah,
I gotta take Miles Killebrew. Oh, there's two?
We don't have an interior offensive line.
Oh, that's true. I gotta take Miles Killebrew. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I said this is a special teams player, not necessarily a kicker or a punter. Chris Boswell is great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL. But Miles Killebrew has consistently been one of the best special teams players in the NHL. Several block punts in his career. I think that, quite frankly, that's the only reason he's still rostered on the Steelers is because of how much value he has on the special team side of the ball. And so I feel like that is an easy pick for me.
People have to tell me if I'm hearing things or if you said NHL instead of NFL there, because I swear I heard NHL and I want to know what the comments.
Maybe I did say NHL. I definitely meant NFL. I don't know. It's getting late. I'm sorry.
It is. At the time of recording this, 10:18 p.m. breaking the fourth wall. All right. Well, you know what? If you want special teams, I'm going to be the one to take the first interior offensive lineman. There's actually some good options here. I don't think that either one of us are going to have a bad player here, but I want James Daniels.
Okay.
So I will do that.
And of course, this is your team that you're building and not the Steelers, because the Steelers have not talked with James Daniels about an extension.
Right. Yeah, very clearly this is.
But this is your team. You're going to be the GM, so that means you're going to be talking about an extension with them.
The rest of the picks, I guess, at this point are just going to be what player we want more so than going against each other to get a position or player first. Yeah. So I could really go anywhere with this, but I would just not to keep a legend waiting. I'll take Cam Hayward as my defensive lineman.
Cam Hayward. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like whether he would have been picked first or second as far as the position goes, I don't think there would have been a wrong answer. But since you threw in the caveat, like this is us building our franchise, I feel like Keanu Benton is definitely the better one. I mean, it's kind of like comparing Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. Like, and not that I'm trying to compare Keanu Benton to Justin Fields. Your pedigree is way better right now, buddy. But as far as like age goes and everything, you want to build around that type of player. And I'm in the same boat. I pretty much can take whoever I want with my next picks because I'm not fighting with you for anybody. So I'm going to be picking on the interior. I'll take Zach Frazier, center out of West Virginia. A lot of high expectations for him to be able to anchor down the middle of that offensive line and really hammer home what we think Arthur Smith's offense is going to be. That's why we had such a value put on the position itself this whole offseason. We knew they were going to take a center because they had to. So Zach Frazier makes a ton of sense. And then just because I'll stick with the offensive side of the ball, Najee Harris, as much as it pains me that he's only on a 1-year contract, like you said, I mean, if you're going to extend James Daniels, I get to extend Najee Harris, I guess. Even though I might not do that because you know how I feel about running backs. You don't sign them, you just draft a new one. So maybe we'll just draft Ollie Gordon next year. I don't know. But Najee Harris is the obvious pick at the running back position for me.
Yeah, you could have gone with Jonathan Ward or Aaron Shampklin, but either way.
Do you count Cordell Patterson as more of a wide receiver or a running back?
I was just about to pick him as my special teams player.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So there's one of my picks. I was literally typing it as you said that because I was like, I mean, he's the kick returner, so that's special teams. So I'm gonna go there. Doesn't really matter where I go next, I guess. Man, I'll take Van Jefferson.
I mean, looking at the wide receivers, there wasn't really any good options past. I think the first.
I'll take Brandon Ayuk.
Like, do you? There you go, breaking the fourth wall. But they already made the trade. Just kidding, they didn't. Do you think like after the first two, we took George Pickens and Roman Wilson? One, do you think Roman Wilson was the correct wide receiver to take at number 2 for the wide receivers? And then 2, do you think that there's really a good option after those top two that we could have taken?
I would take Calvin Austin before Roman Wilson right now.
Wow.
It's funny because we just did Steelers Now. We just did a ranking top 10 receivers in the division. I was the only one. Oh no, Derek had Roman Wilson as the number 10. So he had 2 Steelers receivers as well. I had Calvin Austin as the number 10 receiving the division.
Wow.
But Allen didn't have a second Steelers wide receiver in his top 10. Just to show you the state of the wide receiver room.
Well, I tend to agree with Allen too. I mean, not that either you or Derek.
So my logic was that somebody has to get the volume to be within the top 10 receivers. Like there has to be a second guy that steps up somewhere, in my opinion. So it's just, are you banking on that being?
So you're thinking Calvin Austin's going to make a big jump?
Moderately, yeah. I mean, honestly, I keep going back to saying it, but I feel like it's really Pat Freiermuth as the number 2 option in the passing game. But if you're asking me about a second receiver, I see it right now being Calvin Austin above Roman Wilson. By the end of the season,
even if you counted Pat Freiermuth as wide receiver 2, just to say pass catcher 2, I mean, even being pass catcher 3, that's a huge jump for Calvin Austin.
Yeah. I honestly. I just think they're going to get him a lot of free releases. Like I'm excited about what Arthur Smith's going to do with him. I don't know that it's going to necessarily translate to 50 plus catches, 6 plus touchdowns or anything like that. But I think he's going to be a part of this offense. I think he's going to carve out a role for himself.
Okay. I appreciate that. So the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm just kidding. No, it's not Kyle Allen. I will still take Russell Wilson. Respect to Kyle Allen, by the way. Come on the show.
Two L's in Russell.
Yeah. I was about to fix that. As much as Russell Wilson would not be my pick as far as building a franchise around just because of age concerns, I've said before, Russell Wilson, if you want to win football teams or a football game right now, would be my guy to go to, at least as we're speaking. We haven't seen either of them play. So we'll see. We'll see what Russell Wilson can survive from, or can revive from. Well, it might not be as bad of a pick. And then I guess I'll leave the suspense for which safety.
Okay. I would say the linebacker one's interesting to me.
Well, I was say we're going to leave the suspense for which safety I'm going to pick because I'm not sure which one I even want to pick. But the linebacker one to me is interesting because I'm really deciding between two. But because of age, I'm kind of leaning against one.
Okay.
And so I'm going to take Peyton Wilson, even though he hasn't played a snap. Might be a bust, and this is a terrible draft, but I feel like I'm going to go with the age. And the other one I was deciding between was a Landon Roberts.
If Cole Holcomb didn't get hurt and they still operate the same way, like still draft Peyton Wilson, man, that is a crazy decision to have to make.
Yeah. No, I agree. With his injury, though, it was just an easy for me to overlook Cole Holcomb. Like, no idea what he's going to be like post-injury. Mm-hmm. And Landon Roberts, really good value for the Steelers to have in the middle. But when you have a rookie with high praise like Peyton Wilson is having right now, one of the better linebackers in this draft class, I think that it's an easy one for me.
All right, so I'll finish this up. The tight ends, Darnell Washington. Good thing that I got a good pass-catching running back. That's what I'll say. Because my wide receiver 2 is Van Jefferson, and my tight end is Darnell Washington. So I'm glad that I got Jalen Warren and not Najee. Although Najee's a fine pass-catching running back, but I got the better of the two in that area. Mm-hmm. And then my cornerback, this might surprise some people. I'm going to go with Darius Rush as opposed to Trice or Sutton or anybody else. Dante Jackson as well could have been in the conversation, but I'm going to go with Darius Rush.
Okay. I didn't know if you were going to go with what's that dude's name? Beanie
Bishop. If I'm only taking one, it's got to be an outside guy. The height, weight, speed combo that Darius Rush brings to the table are very intriguing to me. Right now, he's definitely ahead of Corey Trice. I think he's definitely going to carve out a role on Sundays. He did some things last year, like even playing, like the game we were at against Tennessee, played like 40% of the snaps. They had him playing safety, that him playing in the nickel, so was doing a lot of different things. So, as a developmental guy, I think he could do worse. Yeah,
and my safety, I'm going to take Deshaun Elliott.
I was just saying, you were making it seem like it was a tougher call. For me, that wouldn't have been. If Minka was off the board, it would have been an easy pick for me.
Yeah, I guess looking at it by itself, Deshaun Elliott is an easy pick. I'm just thinking, you have at least, Ryan Watts is young. If you're just going off of young, and you hope he turns into something. But as far as someone that can plug and play right now and then could still have some future left, Deshaun Elliott is an easy pick. I definitely was overplaying that a little bit. But yeah, so this is what we came up with. So just to recap, Smitty's team is Justin Fields at quarterback, George Pickens and Van Jefferson at wide receiver, Jalen Warren at running back, Darnell Washington at tight end, Troy Fautanu as his offensive tackle, James Daniels at guard, Cam Hayward on the defensive line, TJ Watt out on the outside, Patrick Queen in the middle, Darius Rush on outside cornerback, Minkah Fitzpatrick as his safety, and Cordell Patterson as his special teams player. My team, Tyler's team, is Russell Wilson at quarterback, Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III as his wide receivers, Najee Harris as running back, Pat Freiermuth as my tight end, Project Jones on the offensive line as my tackle, Zach Frazier at the interior as my center, Keanu Benton on the defensive line, Alex Highsmith on the edge, Peyton Wilson as my linebacker, Joey Porter Jr. as my cornerback, Deshaun Elliott as my safety, and as my special teams player, Miles Killebrew. Let us know below what you guys think. Whose team would you pick out of these two, Smitty's or Tyler's? I'm curious to see how these people think how we did. I think, honestly, they're pretty even overall. I mean, obviously, there's some positions.
My defense is so nasty. If it was not, don't get me wrong. I like Darius Rush, but that's clearly the weakness on my defensive unit here. That is nasty. Besides Darius Rush,
I definitely think that defensively, you are definitely going for peak right now, and I'm just banking on good future. That's how I would compare the two.
Benton, Wilson, Porter. Yeah. You definitely.
Yeah, I'm just
younger
kind of
on
like
that side.
banking on some good future. Offensively, you better not be throwing the ball, like especially with Justin Fields as the quarterback. Unless you're throwing to George only, you better not be throwing to anybody else.
It's funny because like my team is built basically like the way the people think the Steelers are going to play. Like I only have
Yeah.
one competent pass catching option really. Jalen Warren again being a good pass catching running back though, but like, yeah, it just screams we're just running the ball.
I mean, honestly, your team is just built like the Steelers. Questionable offense.
Yeah.
They're going to run the ball. They can't throw the ball, and the defense is stacked.
So I'm the Steelers of the fantasy draft for the Steelers.
You are the
That we
Steelers
just
of the fantasy draft. That's it.
I'm gonna post this screen grab on X as well once the episode comes out and get people's opinions on it on our account too. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Which team would you prefer?
Big shout out to all of our sponsors, those of which we did not play any ads for during this episode because it would have been kind of weird, I feel like, to try to throw them in there. But shout out to Game Changers. Save yourself $10 on every order using code AT412 at checkout. It's at gamechanger.la or pick6.la. The link for that is in the description. The link to everything custom designs also in the description. Haley, that is, I don't know why I said just she. Haley got a new machine to be able to do custom hats as well. So I got some around the 412 hats from her on the way. I'll definitely wear one on here once I get them so you guys can see them. Get yourself one of those. But we have the link for our shirts that she produces as well. You can get them as a t-shirt, long sleeve, hoodie, all that good stuff. Also, shout out to Keeks Barbershop, located at 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Keeks Barbershop, they've been with us, I think, basically since we started this podcast, or maybe 1 year after. But anyways, Christian does a great job over there. Download the app, The Cut, book an appointment with him today, or you can do a walk-in over there with Ashley or Tony. But great stuff over there. Love Keeks Barbershop. But I think that's it. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. If you were on YouTube, hit us in the comments, like we said, about which team you thought was better or question for a future episode, all that good stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to subscribe over there. Leave us a 5-star review, all that good stuff. Follow us everywhere at Around the 412. I think that's it. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.